So welcome everybody to Integrate Yourself. We're your hosts, Allison Pillow and Maya Gottlieb. You can find me, Allison, at pureenergypdx.com, and you can find Maya at mayagottlieb.com. And just to let everybody know, we have combined our YouTube channels. So Maya and I are now together on YouTube under Integrate Yourself. So if you are subscribed to the channel and you notice there was a change in the title, that is why we're combining our forces to become more powerful and to get out to more people. So thank you guys for subscribing to our YouTube channel and to our podcast. Today we're here with Kate Deering of Kate Deering Fitness. She has been on our show before, and we want to welcome her to our show and thank her so much for coming back on. We had such a great show last time. I thought it would be awesome to have Kate back on the show. Kate has written a book called, if you guys aren't familiar with Kate, she's written a book called How to Heal Your Metabolism. And it's a book that we refer to many of our clients, and it's kind of the Bible of the diet that we prefer and that we suggest and go by as coaches. And it's just a great information all packed into one book, and it makes it really simple. So Kate, thanks again for coming on and welcome back.
Oh, thanks again. I love your reference. I love the Bible thing. That's perfect.
It's the way I think of it. You know, it's such a great reference. So
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
You're now Moses with the Bible.
If I could only get part of the Red Sea, that would be, I would get it. People would really start paying attention at that point.
Yeah, we're definitely glad you're back on. And one of the things we're going to talk about hopefully today is how the weight loss idea is kind of pulling people in different directions and getting them lost, and how we kind of need to help kind of understand what nutrition is there for. It's another tool to help you in your guidance to keeping stress down and allowing you to live a fulfilled life. And when nutrition becomes overwhelming and you don't know what you're doing because you've tried everything under the sun, sometimes we just need to kind of step back and look at why certain things are not working for you. And today we want to talk a little bit about that and why your metabolism is important for you individually to figure out and move on with what works for you. So Kate, first thing I'm going to ask is, can you tell them a little bit about why the liver is really important, and why that they need to be paying attention to the storage of what's happening to the liver, and why this is affecting maybe even when you try Ray Peat's work and try his ideas?
Well, there's a lot of good reasons why the liver is important. At least 500, because that's about how many functions it does. So besides the fact that it does, filtering of the blood, it also stores glycogen, or sugar essentially. And that stored glycogen helps regulate your blood sugar. So the only place that your blood sugar is regulated through is stored glycogen in the liver, not anywhere else. And because we all need to have a blood sugar that's maintained, we don't want to have ups and downs of blood sugar. If your liver isn't working optimally, it usually has an issue with storing enough glycogen. And so that comes with, toxification, drugs, damage, dieting, and all those things stress your liver. Excess estrogen, all of these things are going to stress your liver. And so when your liver isn't functioning, like I said, properly, and it can't store enough glycogen to regulate blood sugar, then you're going to have all these ups and downs. Then you're also going to have trouble with sleeping. You're going to be waking up a lot throughout the night. And so it's important that we help keep that liver in good health. And a lot of the things that we need to do as far as that are, maintaining enough protein in our diet. So I know Ray says at least 80 grams, and it depends on the individual, but that it's at least basically to help maintain your liver function. And also, of course, having enough good sugars in your diet, because you have to maintain a certain level of glycogen in the liver, or sugars in the liver store, so that you can keep your blood sugar regulated. The B vitamins are also super important. Also because, our liver is essentially a storage area for a lot of our nutrition. So if you don't have enough, you're going to suffer in those levels. And that's another reason why eating liver is such a powerhouse full of nutrition, because that's where we store it all.
Right.
Yeah. And the biggest thing I noticed some people don't recognize is that glucose is important for the brain, and your metabolism glucose is affected through your liver. So like, even if you are ingesting some sugars, or how you can't focus on having this idea of sugar is just going to fix you, but it also doesn't mean it's not going to create some other thing that shows that you had deficiency in. Because when you add it, you're going to be kind of in a situation where you got to find what the proportion and the timing and how it works for you, and what kind of sugar works for you, because there's such a debate now, and some of our listeners get a little confused about why sugar is important, because there's still a demonizing of sugar, and how fast and how slow they should be incorporating in it if they haven't had it. So if you came from a ketosis diet, and we had just talked about that part, maybe we should refresh about why the ketosis may not, when you're adding sugar back in, why it might affect you.
Yeah. And I think that sugar is being demonized more than it ever has.
Probably more so
Yeah.
because the ketogenic diet is very popular right now. And
Yeah.
so I think when something like that, who's reliant mostly on ketones and basically going very low carb, that's kind of, and people are getting results. So, it is confusing because they're like, well, I took all the sugar away and I feel better.
Yeah. And then
that would make sense.
I remember that.
Yeah, I do too.
Lasted for only so long.
Yeah, I remember when I did that.
Yeah.
And I was really lean all the time.
And then
and then I felt like shit.
And then you didn't have energy to do anything else in your life, but just lay there and be lean. But
I looked so good.
Right?
You were just grumpy as heck, and you didn't want to be around people, and
right. And I could eat your arm at any. No, I don't want to take. I mean, there's a lot of people that are benefiting from a ketogenic diet, and
yes.
so I don't want to take anything from them, and I don't want to say this is right or wrong. We're all on our own paths. Personally, when you do look at physiology and you look at a healthy human being, and you see how their functions work, we'll understand why glucose is so important to the system and why our brains like it, and they utilize so much of it, as such a small body part. It's about 7% of your weight, but uses about 20% of your glucose. So can it use other resources? Absolutely. Our bodies are there to survive, but is it ideal to use ketones over glucose? I don't think human physiology says that to us. I mean, I think it's a secondary resource. And if you see what happens in physiology and how we actually have to start, what we have to go through to start burning ketones, we have to go through a stress system. And that's kind of what we're trying to get away from, is unstressing the body, because right now we're all in a hugely stressed life, and we're eating stressful diets, and we're eating too less or not as much nutrition. And it's creating more stress and demands on our system. And it's not giving us an optimal metabolic rate, essentially.
Which is interesting. There's been talk about like the difference between males and females in terms of liver size. How much have you noticed that being an issue? Maybe more men lean to ketone diet versus women. Maybe they try it for a while and then they realize that doesn't really work for them too. Do you see that kind of happening with some of your clients? And do you feel that kind of is a truth in terms of that?
I don't know. It seems that a lot of the people that I've worked with that have gone very low carb probably did too much protein. They weren't on a real ketogenic diet as far as super high fat and, moderate. I don't actually see that. I don't actually see a lot of people doing a true ketogenic diet. I know there's like some substrates of it going on right now. There's like the moderate or the partial keto. And I don't even know what that means.
Yeah, right.
How do you partially kind of do it?
It's because it's too hard to do it,
Well, and all it sounds like is that they're eating less to me.
Yeah.
And
that's
maybe
what I see.
removing a lot of the processed foods, so they
Yeah.
feel better. Not eating a lot of these grains and oatmeal and all of these,
which is good. Yeah.
Yeah, which is a benefit, right?
Yeah.
And so, but ultimately, what I see is like, okay, you're eating less, and it maybe because they're all doing intermittent fasting in a smaller period of time, and you're giving your body, I guess, a substantial break. It all sounds like they're actually doing less activity too, so that's less stress to their system. So there are some things that I see that people are doing. I'm like, okay, that would make sense. That's less stress to your system. That's less stress. But ultimately, they're getting leaner because they're eating a lot less. And you will get leaner initially by eating a lot less. And, and so And if you can maintain blood sugar level because you're not, you're just kind of eating in this window of opportunity, and your body is now starting to utilize ketones and fat. So you kind of feel a little bit more balanced. But ultimately, long term, that's not a good method for maintaining a high metabolism and keeping it. And usually, ultimately, what you see is people do crash.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I mentioned when I made the comment about being lean and like just looking and having no energy to do anything, I'm really talking about myself, and I'm just making fun of myself. So for everybody out there, that is what that means. And then also, I wanted to follow up on that though, Katie, because Kate.
Katie,
I was just with Katie Bowman. Sorry, I'm kind of having to switch gears here. So Kate, with the whole metabolism thing, so what I'm seeing too is like we're in a mindset. We're not really understanding really how the metabolism works. And I mentioned this on our last interview together, but I wanted to get into this a little bit more and talk a little bit about like the theory of metabolism and how it's really misunderstood. And as your metabolism raises, you actually need to feed it, and it requires more nutrients, and you go through nutrients much faster. So I think that's what people don't understand. And when I coach people, I'm trying to get them to realize like how much energy you're using. You don't want to go over the amount of energy you're using and not taking enough in. Like you don't want to have a deficit essentially, because if this was like a bank account, we would be in debt all the time, right?
Right.
Just like that. But as you require more energy, you're going to need more energy. And I think that's where people kind of have a disconnect, because we've been taught to eat less and get lean. And then you're healthier when you eat less, right? No matter what. And so because I feel like we're in this weight loss mentality is what I like to call it. What is your opinion on that? Because I think it's going to be more of like really a real mindset shift for a lot of people to think about feeding themselves more.
Yeah. So I think, and I've thought about this a lot because I've been reading a lot of books on habit and mentality and mindset. And I think one thing that's happened is that, we're always our brains are goal driven. And so if we see the goal as weight loss, and we always think like, that's the thing, we want weight loss, right? So our brains are already programmed for weight loss. And when we start shifting people to a healing mentality, the goal cannot be weight loss, because it could come late, it could come here, and so they can get some sort of frustration going on with that. But what I think is, if you can shift your goal and say, my goal set now is to get warmer, my goal set now is to increase pulse and temperature, and to get away from actual weight loss, because that will always derail you if that is your main goal, and you still see it. I'm like, yeah, I want to get healthy, I still want to lose 50 pounds. I'm like, okay, we need to get you healthy first, and then we can focus on the weight loss. So we need to focus on all of this better energy. Are you having a bowel movement daily? These are now your new goals that I want your brain to focus on, so that you can get away from that mindset, because if not, you're going to constantly go back to what you used to think. Yep. And that is the shift that has to happen mentally, so that you can go through this process and feel safe and know that you're doing the right thing, because it's so against what you've been doing the last 30, 40, 50, 60 years of your life. And if you don't think that your brain is just on this path and it's just going to shift like that, it's not. We have to retrain it. We have to give it a new goal. And if we don't have those goals and know what we're doing and put those into our new daily programming, you're going to always go back to your comfort zone. Well, I'm not losing any weight. I'm going to start, and then you get derailed, and then you start doing your old activities that would lead you to, weight loss, because we're just trained to do that. It's nothing that we have done. It's just, that's what our brains have trained us to do. And that's what we'll go back to. So I think that's part of the conversation that has to start happening, because so much focus is on that weight loss, everything, media, every diet print,
yes.
And we all want to look better. And that's a real thing, because that's put into our society, and so
right.
We have to change that conversation to, we have to get you healthier first. And this is what health looks like. And when we get you healthier, we can start whittling away. And then that way, when you lose the weight, you're still going to feel good. You're not going to have all these cravings. You're going to have good energy. You're going to have all of these things that you've been wanting, and you're not going to feel deprived or have to completely remove a macronutrient to get to where you want to go.
Right.
And someone else that mentioned this, it's like, okay, great, you have this one goal. So then you've lost the weight. What do you do then? What do you
Yeah.
call you need to have a maintenance, an idea of how you're going to maintain. Like, what are you focused on in that moment of where I finally get a goal and I do what I need to do. But most of the time, if you see any of those programs of diets or any kind of removing of macronutrients, you can't sustain that for a long time in a period. And what you were talking about, like focusing on one of the weight loss, it reminds me of what they call target fixation, and where you basically, if you are in a motorcycle, they teach you not to do that, because if you do, you run into what you're looking for. And so if you think about how like Brene Brown and all these other self improvement people that are out there, they talk about, like, if you search for something, you will find it. So if I keep telling myself I'm too fat, I'm not this, I'm not that, yeah, you'll reinforce it all the time. So if you think about weight loss as that, you're focusing on seeing what you have not done. I have not lost that weight yet. So it makes you do everything, and that stress keeps building back on the cycle, and you will find that you will succeed in finding what you do not want, or do what you say you don't want.
Yeah, right. I mean, what you focus on is what what you're going to bring to yourself. So, and that, I think that just comes with the other part of, you need to be happy with exactly where you are right now and be in that state, and I'm like, I can't even tell you how many women that I've spoken to, and are like, will show me, look what I used to look like when I was 25. I was so thin. I look so great. I'm like, let me ask you a question. When you were 25, did you think that about yourself? Or were you complaining that you needed to lose 5 or 10 more pounds, or you had this little thing, or you had this mark? I mean, were you at a happy place, or were you unappreciative of that? Oh, I probably was really critical of myself. Exactly. And so right now you need to be appreciative of exactly where you're at, because you don't know. I mean, something could happen in 20 years. And you're like, look at how beautiful I was. So be happy with exactly where you are right now. You have to find it in you to love, and find things about you that you love, and find things about you that you want to focus on, and keep that energy there. And that's what you'll bring closer to you then. Just like they said.
I know for sure that that's what I was doing back then. I mean, I look back at pictures and I'm like, oh my God, what the hell was I thinking? Why was I so self-critical, So that's a great advice. That's a great point to be made, that, we look at that and look at how you feel about yourself right now, and think about how important it is to just feel good right now about yourself, where you are, and have great appreciation and gratitude for that.
Yeah, and you might not be where you want to be, and that's
Right.
okay. I get that. I get you're not where you want, but find 5 things that are good. I mean, and that could be anything. Do you like your skin tone? Do you like how your skin is? Do you like your hair? I mean, whatever that is that you like, and those are going to be the places that you keep your energy in that place of, I love myself, versus I hate myself because I'm not 10 pounds this, 20 pounds this, I can't, whatever that conversation is. Your mind is so powerful and a part of this process in the healing, as far as it's going to direct you to your comfort area. So it's always going to want things to be easier for you. So it's always going to go back to what you used to do. And it's also going to take you to whatever you focus on. Just like Maya said, that's what's going to happen. And so if we can understand that and start using our brains, but we have to train them, right? It doesn't happen like that. You have to keep working on it and working on it and working on it. But the more you keep that focus, it becomes more habitual, and that starts creating your path for you.
Absolutely. That vision of where you want to go, that's the focus, because that's where you'll go. Like Maya said too, like if you're focusing on something positive, a clear vision of where you want to be, then that's where you'll go, most likely.
And with all that, you need to understand that the fuel is the way you're going to be able to sustain it. Like,
The physiological
you
feedback.
can't will yourself into this. Like, it's not some kind of I'll overcome something. What it really is finding like an attunement. You're listening to the finding of your instrument. You're looking to see, okay, am I sleeping good? Do I have a good disposition on days where my stress is pretty low? Do I find that I'm in connection with relationships, and I have an understanding of where I'm at and who I am? And those all take fuel. So to swing back around with nutrition and try to, utilize it in a way that helps you is going to help that brain and your mind work really well to help you, give you the tools. And so with the information you've created, it's just a very good reference to help people to understand why we are kind of similar. I mean, we all have glucose metabolism. We all have the certain mechanisms that, our science class bored us to death about. But these are the things we have, and,
Yeah, it is how the body works, right?
It is how the body works. Yeah.
Yeah, and when you create new pathways or new neural pathways, that takes more energy than your old neural pathways. Habits don't take as much. Your brain wants efficiency, so habits create efficiency, and we don't have to utilize as much energy when we have habits. So for you to take yourself out of the habit and create something new, a new thought process, a new activity, a new eating pattern, that requires energy, right? And which requires fuel. And so on both levels of people, you have to make space to create these new habits because they just don't happen. You have to think about them. They take cognitive work. You can't just automatically go back into your old habits. You can, but that's not going to change anything. And so, and with that, you takes energy, it takes fuel, it takes work. And then again, though, as you start doing them and as you start supporting yourself, they will start happen. But it's a day to day, every day, invest and so forth kind of thing.
Yeah. Absolutely.
The follow through is important too, the consistency, and being patient and knowing that, it's okay to go slow. Like you don't have to have it all answered. And, which is hard for people. We get it. We've been there.
It's a constant learning of your body and how it works. Cause again, everybody's got such individual needs too, as far as nutrients goes, is what I'm finding, and how you're, as well as nutrient needs, your activity levels, your stress levels. These are also different for each person. So these are things that you as an individual have to become aware of. No one can really do it for you.
Yeah, it's trial and error. It's trying stuff and seeing how it works. It's paying attention and seeing, and like I said, that's why taking temp and pulse and food logging is really helpful, because then you can visually see what's working and what's not working. But that takes time and effort to do. But it's like, these are your signals. These are what's going to show you how you're going down your path. If not, you're just randomly throwing darts at a dartboard and hoping for success, which can happen, but you're going to be more zoned into where you want to go by giving yourself feedback.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Did you want to?
I was just going to add, sometimes you are going to throw darts because you have to kind of go outside of your beliefs. Like sometimes we get kind of lost in the idea that we've done something before and it, didn't work, but we didn't take in what context it was put in. Like, if I did something, maybe I didn't see how that may have not have worked then, but why it's working now. That kind of brings that experiment, that researcher inside of you out, that part of you that's willing to be curious again, to see, well, let me, let me not throw everything out and just let me see what I can try to recreate within what I had tried before. And that gives you power. That gives you that empowerment within to say, you know what, I'm still the discoverer of where I'm going and what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I wanted to switch gears a little bit here and just go basic here and talk about carbohydrates, because I still feel like there's this major issue with carbohydrates, and it's really, to me, I see it as the quality of carbohydrates, the type of carbohydrates. And Kate, I noticed that you just posted, you just had a post on your Facebook page about starchy carbohydrates. And I think there's a huge misunderstanding of how you metabolize starchy carbohydrates and that they're equal or the same as fruit. And actually, sometimes when I talk to people, they don't eat fruit, but they'll eat bread and pasta, or they'll eat really, really starchy carbohydrates and think that that's okay. Again, it's not as digestible as like a fruit or dairy for some people. But I think there's just a huge misunderstanding about it, or some people just cut it out altogether. So, Kate, I was wondering if you could just kind of go into a little bit of how like starchy carbohydrates are a little different from simple carbs, and how, if we're going through a lot of digestive distress and a low metabolism, how it can be helpful to know the difference between the two and know which one to choose for energy production.
Yeah, so I think to clarify, like starchy carbs would be your grains, your bread. It can also be potatoes, and they can be some fruit like bananas. I mean, those are all starchy carbohydrates. Now, your system can have a harder time breaking those down, and they can feed bacteria in your gut, causing more disturbances for your system. And I think I posted today, one way to help break the starchy carbs down is cooking them, having a well-cooked potato. I mean, I cook bananas, which will actually make it more sweet. Banana can actually change and transition. When it's really firm, it's more starchy. When it's softer, it's more sweet. So those are ways that make that food a little bit more digestible for you, along with eating it with some fat. Can also make it easier for your system to process. Some of the fruits are easier. Tropical fruits are easier for your system to break down. But some of them, like apples and pears, that are super fibrous and high in pectin, can also be challenging for your system. So same thing with those. I say take the skins off, cook them, make them softer, easier for your body to digest. Think of cooking as just like pre-digesting. It's just another thing for your body, another level before it gets into your system, and it makes it easier for your system to break down. Because when we look at food, it's not necessarily like how much nutrition is in this food. It's how much can we get out of that food, and how hard is it for us to pull nutrition. So like nuts and seeds and beans and leafy green vegetables, some of those are filled with nutrition, but they're packed in a way that it's really hard for our system to get what we need out of it. Or they have other things in that food that don't allow us to get what we need out of it. So they'll have anti-nutrients in there that don't allow us to actually get the nutrition that we need, or even get the protein that we need. So we have to understand the whole food. It's not just about how nutritious is that. Okay, well, can we actually get it? Can we absorb it? Can we process it? Can we break it down? And what is the shape of our gut? Because if you're super healthy, you can handle some of those foods and be completely fine. But if you're in distress and you're getting a lot of gut bloating, then those aren't ideal foods for you, or you need to at least have them in a certain way, at least cook them, and so that they're easier for your body to assimilate.
Yeah. What about rice, though? I think there's still a little debate on whether it's good for you, how you're going to prepare it, if you're going to eat it, how much you're going to eat it. Because when we get into these nutritional ways of cooking stuff, some people find that, if I eat it in the Japanese style, had, sushi rice, which has been with vinegar or something.
Or cooking it and cooling it too.
Yeah, there's all those different ways of doing it. What have you noticed about rice, and what confusions have you kind of seen on that?
I think some people can do really well with rice. Again, in our culture, the brown rice is seen as healthier because it's more fibrous, right? But I mean, again, it's the same thing. Brown rice is probably going to cause more gut disturbances. The Asian cultures don't eat brown rice. They eat white rice, right? And so I would usually recommend a white rice. Cook it well, and eat it with some fat, with some butter. But again, for a lot of people, having those grains aren't going to work right now. It's gonna take some time. Now, could they possibly add them back in at a time and try it? Absolutely. And they usually do, and do just fine.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Hey, everybody. Thrive Market has been my most favorite online store for about 2 years now, and I'll tell you guys why. It's because they sell the best and the highest quality organic and health products at wholesale prices. So you get about 25 to 50% off, and they ship it straight to your door. So it's super easy, and you can get all the products that we actually recommend on this show, as well as many products that you'd probably find at something like Whole Foods, and it'd probably be marked up about 50%, which gets expensive every week. So that's one of the reasons I really love Thrive Market. Members get everyday wholesale pricing at 25 to 50% off the best healthy and organic premium products for just $60 a year. So if you put that into perspective, you can make your membership back in savings within the first 2 orders, which is kind of amazing. And even better, for every paid membership, Thrive Market donates a membership to a low-income family, veteran, or teacher. So together, we're all making a healthy living affordable for everyone, and we're helping the community. And that's one of the things I really also love about Thrive Market. And that's a company I am so honored to support. And if you support Thrive Market that way, you can also support our podcast, and by just joining, even for the trial membership or ordering a product off Thrive Market, you send a little bit of money back to us, and that supports our production costs and all the time that we put into this podcast for you guys. So thank you guys so much. If you want to join or do a trial for Thrive Market, go ahead and follow the link, click on the link, and then it'll take you to pureenergypdx.com, and you can find the Thrive Market banner, click there, and then it'll take you straight over there through our affiliate link. We appreciate it so much. Thank you. And now back to the show.
So we talked to one of our guests, and he talked about how he helped his wife with gluten intolerance by vitamin E and progesterone, and trying to reduce the stress and stuff. And have you found the same thing? Have you gotten help people with the issues with gluten intolerance in that way?
You know, it's interesting because a lot of times it depends on where they're living. You know, I find that people in the UK seem to have a little bit easier grains to, you know, that they actually can do better with adding gluten in. You know, I'm not sure that gluten has ever been the issue, other than how we create the seed is probably, you know, it's more intolerable for us at this point, because 50, 100 years ago, it didn't bother anybody, but now it bothers everybody, you know. So what's happening really? Is it the seeds that we're using are different? Yes. You know, is it all the other processed foods that now we're having an issue with it? Yes. And so do most people at this point in time have some sort of gluten issue? Yes. Can you get their body out of stress and add it back in and see how they do? Yeah. And I mean, if they have celiac, I'm not sure that I've seen someone actually with something like celiac and added it back in and been okay. I mean, those people already seem to have made an adaptation, and now they can't tolerate it. But on some level, you know, they might be able to go to other areas that not, you know, I feel like the United States has probably destroyed our grains here more than anybody.
Yeah.
That's my experience with working from people with all over the world. But, you know, I think it just depends. It depends on, you know, the state of their health, and where they're at, and you know, and how they're healing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also have a theory that we have higher estrogen levels in general, just from all the chemicals and the plastic and the stress that we're under. That could be, and also like under feeding ourselves too. You know, I think there since estrogen is a stress hormone, I feel like there could be a possibility that we just generally have higher levels, and that also causes an issue with digesting gluten. I think you're more sensitive to gluten when you have higher estrogen levels.
Yeah, probably any higher stress hormones. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, if we all knew that, you know, again, estrogen is like the stress or shock hormone. You know,
Yeah.
so you understand you have elevated levels when you go under shock. You know, and we have increased estrogen levels, and we need to understand that. You know, after we basically have a baby or go through development, you really don't need a lot of estrogen. You know, there isn't a really like you need to get it. Just don't.
Yeah.
It comes naturally.
I know. You don't have to work at it.
Yeah.
That's so I don't understand why people give people estrogen, or doctors.
What else is important besides diet, nutrition?
Yeah. So I think one of the things we have to be aware of when we're trying to get healthy is the amount of stress that is on our system is playing a big role. And the more stress we have on our system, the harder it is for us to get into a healthy state. And so the diet that we recommend is basically on a physiological level, there are components of it that will actually reduce certain stress hormones in your system. You know, sugar and salt reduce stress hormones. Calcium can reduce stress hormones. So, you know, obviously a diet that's supported with high calcium, high healthy sugars and minerals and nutrition is going to help reduce the stress in your system. However, if you have tons of external stress, right? You're still working 80 hours a week, or you're in a miserable relationship, or, you know, you hate where you live, or whatever, your attitude just sucks. All of those things are actually going to be extra stress on your system that if you don't look at those avenues as well, you're only going to get so far. So a healthy diet will support you in your daily life and to get through and so that you can survive per se. But if you don't look at all the other avenues in your life, it's going to be really hard for you to get to where you want to go. In fact, I worked with a client once, and and I used to train her, and I helped her with her diet, and she was in a marriage that she didn't like. She wasn't happy in this relationship, and we did a lot of different things, and we got her so far, and then finally she got to a point she was ready to leave this relationship. And I'm not telling you, within 1 year, she lost 10 pounds, and just her entire attitude, and she didn't do anything else. She didn't change her diet. She didn't work out anymore. She just basically got happier, and that shifted her. And I think it's so remarkable sometimes to see this, that sometimes it's not exactly just your workout program and your nutrition program. You have to look at other, and if you're miserable, it's going to be hard to lose weight or whatever it is you're doing, because it's just this emotional armor that you have around yourself until you get to the place that you want to go, and then things just can happen naturally.
Yeah. I almost see as the weight gain as a precursor to the body going, okay, I can relax a little. I don't have to work so hard, and kind of give that preempt to saying, oh, I'm being fed and I'm happy, because like if you think about how we all love comfort food, right? Comfort food fills you up and makes you feel like secure and stuff. And if the body's been in such stress for so long, you think about like, what response would it have? It's going to say, yes, take it all in. Oh, yes, I love it,
But it's also going to build muscle too, right? That's the thing that people don't consider when they're gaining weight. They're like, oh, I gained weight, but you could be also gaining muscle, which is something that's very metabolic.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And when you have a supportive, when you get an anabolic state, and we all know that carbs are very protective to maintaining and helping muscles grow, and you start giving your body everything it needs to gain. I mean, you can do very little more activity, but start gaining muscle. So yeah, that does happen. But I think it goes back, you always want to be safe. Your body's always looking for safety. We all want to feel safe. And sometimes, yes, we're in that totally stressed arena, of running and trying to be lean, it's just in this state of fear constantly. Like if I'm not lean, I can't love myself and nobody else will love me. There's that whole another conversation. But when your body starts shifting and eating more supportively to help it, and you might gain a little weight, it's starting to try to feel safe again, and sometimes that little bit of a body armor, a psychological level, can help people.
Yeah, I mean, if
even though they might not like it.
Yeah, but it's also a mindset. Like if you think about the African countries, there was a certain status that was with being fat and being wealthy meant you weren't starving all the time. So
Sure.
These mentalities are different in different cultures. But what we're forgetting is that there is a transition time. Like if your body's been starving, it's been lean. Let's say it's been lean, but underneath it, it's been actually starving for nutrition. Then you start to slow down your stress. You start adding some food. You start giving it it's saying, oh wait, I've got all this good stuff, but I haven't utilized all this in a long time. So I'm going to hold on to it. Like I'm going to be like that chipmunk for the winter. I'm going to take it in. I'm going to hold it. I'm going to make sure I have.
When you're going to feed it again. It's like
exactly.
So long.
We don't know when we're going to get more.
That's right.
And there's that part of like, keeping your body in tune with itself, and it's saying, okay, we have not been in this certain mechanism in so long that we got to kind of revamp everything, let our guard down, and be able to go back to what we know is free and being able to move correctly, or not correctly, but just, allowing the body to do what it's naturally been born to do, instead of trying to fix it all the time. Like we got into this whole detox craze. Everyone's like, we got to detox our liver, we got to detox our kidneys. These things have always done.
They've
always done them themselves. So you don't have to do it.
Right. Yeah, they're naturally made to be that way. They don't need help. They just stop trying to add stress to it. But that's
the only thing those diets ever did. I think they help, let's say, detox your intestines, because you just ate less crap, so it gave them a little break.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So that maybe made people feel better for a little bit, but yeah, I mean, your liver and your, can you think they all need fuel? They need that to work. So don't take that away.
Seriously. Yeah.
Like trying to be a filter for your car, like the filter was there for the purpose of just doing what it was made to do.
Yeah. It's kind of like, okay, I'm just not going to put gas in my car for a week and see what happens. Like, is it going to run? Probably not.
Not well. Yeah. I mean, that's the difference between a human, though, and a car is we actually will utilize other resources to fuel ourselves, but it's at the expense of usually muscle or your thymus gland or, whatever else. I mean, when you put yourself in that position to use other resources that are not the primary or your ideal resources, then you're always going to have some casualty over here, and it might not be instantaneous and you might not see it immediately, because you're so focused probably on the weight loss that it doesn't happen immediately until it's too late. And there's a lot of people that you'll see that have done certain diets and then they've crashed and burned. And now they have to really do some intense healing. And when you get to that state, that's years to fix that system.
Yeah, I find it's really amazing to work with an older population in terms of, and when I say older, I mean the ones that may not have been active in their life when they were in their mid ages, and then they go into their older years and they're having difficulty functioning because their stress levels are quite high. Then they have the pharmaceuticals that keep them on the continuous buffet of pills, and not utilizing that pills are your prescription drugs weren't supposed to be something that you had daily. It wasn't supposed to be something that you were supposed to stay on. It was supposed to just help you at the time that you needed it to keep you from having pain or something like that. But now people are just prescribed every day of your life that you have a pill. And it's interesting to find that it's a discussion with them about revisiting, how do you want to live in terms of like an athlete? Like an athlete has to perform and recover and do things to kind of help themselves when they've done something very stressful in their lives of a sport. You have to learn how to be the best recoverer in your specific sport to be the best at what you're doing. And it's these discussions that I have with these the older population that still have this dependency on a drug or the dependency to stay with like what they learned. And it's kind of a re-education, but it's also feel like I feel compassion because sometimes I'm like, all the things I've changed over the years of learning from where I came from to this point of learning stuff about Ray Peat and all that, and the physiology, that it is really kind of difficult to let go of things that you've learned on the way. It's really kind of revisiting and saying, this isn't working for me now. It's okay to let go of that,
Yeah, but I think that goes back to the neurology of when you've done something for so long. And I think pills and medications also make people feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
I take my pill, I feel better, I feel safe. Don't get, if you take my pill away, they get anxiety or whatever else. So they have to shift their mindset of that pill's really created an adaptation. It's really not healthy for me. And if I want to get away from it, I have to create a new set of goals. That's my goal. And, and when people get off pills, it's not just as easy as getting off pills, especially if you're on a painkiller, an anxiety or an antidepressant. I mean, it takes some time of tapering and really dedication to get off of that, and you're going to go through this phase. So that's safety to people, and I think how you were brought up and the ingrained, and like you said, the longer you're in a mindset, the deeper those neural pathways are ingrained in your system. And so for someone to shift out of that, they really got to be focused on something else and keep on that path for quite some time, and I think why people, if they've been an alcoholic and go through rehab and then a year later they rebound and go back on it because the path is still there, and you say, so you have to go on that day to day, you have to keep on it, that's why they do AA all the time. You got to keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it,
keep coming back.
Yeah, because you've had that 30-40 years of those old patterns, and I think they can certainly diminish, but I think that they're still lingering there a little bit, that if you're not still focused, and that's why I say this path, this journey to healing doesn't end. Sorry.
No.
Right.
Sorry, there's no goal. It's just new stuff you learn. There's new places to go. There's new pathways. And, and you might just think you got it kind of figured out, and then something happens. And so now you're going to learn more stuff. And that's just how it goes.
Yeah.
Well,
True.
and that reminds me of, you stack the pharmaceuticals on top of not getting sleep, right? What do you think happens to like brain function? And, how are you supposed to get into a mindset if your brain isn't functioning optimally because you don't have enough sleep? It's kind of a negative feedback loop because a lot of the pharmaceuticals, like I've had clients who have taken stuff like Ambien, and it's like supposed to make you sleep better, but it actually makes you worse. And there's so many terrible side effects to that. But I know that you've mentioned this before, Kate. Like and we teach this as well, is that like sleep, if you're having issues with sleep, that can mean other things. That can mean that you're not balancing your blood sugar properly. That can mean things that you could handle nutritionally, stress wise. I wanted to bring up this article that you posted on Facebook too, because I mean, you have the best Facebook post, I have to say. I really love.
Thanks. It's my day to day to
Yeah,
go through
I
it
can
and
tell.
find good
Yeah.
stuff.
You said a recent discovery out of the University of Rochester showed that in sleep, you can open up special channels that allow waste products and toxic buildups during sleep, including the proteins that build up in dementia, to be discharged from the brain through the cerebral spinal fluid, which bathes much of the brain. And this unique channel system is 10 times more active in the sleeping brain than in the waking state. That was really cool. I was like, wow. So there's so much that happens during sleep that we're not really aware of in the recovery process, right? Especially with brain function.
Yeah. I mean, we know that sleep is beneficial to our mitochondria. So it's beneficial to our cellular function. We restore our systems that way, but it's super essential for your brain. We don't realize that our brain has a detoxification system. It doesn't utilize liver function or anything like that because we have this blood-brain barrier. So we have the cerebral fluid that actually helps detox the brain. And when we're sleeping, it, like I said, it's 10 times more potent while we're sleeping. So, people that aren't sleeping, they have hard time thinking, they have foggy brain, they have all sorts of issues going on. And so, sleep is such an important piece of the pie with all of this, as far as healing. And of course, everyone says, I wish I could sleep better. I try, I'm
Right.
doing this so I see. I mean, it's just, and it gets, it seems to get worse as you get older. I mean, that is definitely a top complaint. So then people just refer to medications and, I got to sleep, let me take this to help me sleep. And so, a lot of that comes back to stress reduction, balancing your blood sugar, consuming enough food through the day, and because if you're not eating enough, you're going to have dysregulated blood sugar, and then you're going to wake up because that liver isn't able to maintain your blood sugar. So stress hormones are going to rise, you're going to wake up, and that's going to be a continuum until you can get that regulated.
Yeah, it's actually perceived as a bad thing, but it actually is your body is waking you up for a purpose. It's telling you, if you understand what's going on. Like, I know it's hard for some people to understand that the glycogen storage are low. What does that mean? I don't know. It means somebody else's closet isn't full. I don't know. So like, like in some ways you gotta help people kind of listen to the fact that this is like an alarm clock. It's like your body's saying, hey, we can't let you sleep because something might happen to you. And until you kind of work on maybe taking the food at night to help with the blood sugar regulation, to keep the adrenaline effect happening, or if you don't reduce your stress, maybe through trying different things, meditation, doing certain things, to maybe a bath or some kind of mechanism that works for you based on what's working for you, then you're not going to be able to just do sleep. Sleep it comes to you for a reason, and timing when you go to bed, what you're doing every day, is it all a factor of that?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, and I tell people now, because everyone's like, I don't want to eat in the middle of the night. And I'm like, well, a sure way to get yourself back to sleep is go eat something, go eat some salty, sweet food. You can start drinking salty orange juice. You can have some milk, put some salt in it. I mean, some people work better and they have a piece of toast and they put cinnamon sugar on it. I mean, that has worked for people. So I'm just like, whatever works for you and gets you back to sleep is going to be way more important than the calories you just consumed at that moment in time. You need, sleep is essential. And as you start regulating yourself better through the day, you will start sleeping better, and you won't have as many of those wake up calls through the night.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's an interesting kind of thought, is that most things are perceived as a bad thing, but really we kind of would, if we looked at it in a different way, these are all guidances. They're like alarm clocks, or they're like gifts to say, wait, this isn't working for you. Maybe you
Right.
should revisit this, instead of just pushing through it or being afraid of why am I odd or what's going on with me as a threat. It's like we're forgetting that the body is made to be our friend. Like, it's telling us things that we need to listen to. And yeah, our mindset says, oh, we're supposed to be stronger than our body, right? So our cravings or some kind of for sugar, or cravings for this, that those are deemed as bad, and you got to overcome these things. And there's the problem I see in a lot of this kind of reconstructing of the beliefs, because we really helped kind of bring this demonizing of, like, you're a weak person. I'm a weak person because I didn't do this, or I associate shame or fear or some kind of guilt with it, that helps me kind of bring back this, like, I'm still doing it wrong, right?
Right. And I think you're right. You got to change the conversation. You have to let people understand that just because you're stressed out and you're craving sugar, that's not a bad thing. It's just saying your body needs energy, but it is also listening and feeding it the right sources of energy, so that you're not getting weight gain or whatever else that you don't want, or overeating, right? Because overeating, that's going to make you gain weight if you're eating more than your body can utilize. But craving something sweet when you feel stressed out is a normal physiological reaction of your system, because it wants more energy. When your body's stressed, you're using more energy. The demands on your body are higher. And if you're not feeding it, your body's just eating itself. And some people like good. Like, well, not really, because initially what it's going to be doing is just tearing down your muscle tissue, and that's how it's regulating its blood sugar. So
slow down your metabolism and create more weight gain. So then you're on this.
The more muscle loss is the more stress hormones you produce, right?
Yep.
Which then made me have a theory of, like, well, who would want to keep us believing that sugar is bad? And I told Allison this. I'm like, if I was a marketer and if I wanted to try to make people buy my product, what would I do? Okay, I'll make some other product bad, right? So if you think about, like, I was thinking about this with some friends and people that I see this constant need for alcohol, right? And alcohol is not being demonized. Everyone calm down.
Everybody drinks alcohol still. Like, they'll do this like strict diet and then drink alcohol. Like, what?
Yeah,
I know. That's what cracks me up the most. I know.
Oh, I got gluten-free beer. I've got this GMO-free wine, and I'm like, yeah, but this is a cry for sugar. Like, underneath it all, you're really needing sugar, and that's why you get your alcohol. So I was thinking, what a great way of trying to, like, switch bait, right? Get the alcohol companies great influence by allowing them to kind of just ride on the coattails of everyone demonizing sugar and fruit. Hey, no problem. Come on over. We got all this beer and all this wine for you. We're good for you. We'll help you out.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. It is interesting what people do. I'm like, I'm on a ketogenic diet, but I drink my wine. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
How does that work?
How does that fit?
I'm like, how? But again, I know what you're doing is you're eating less calories, and you're eating less things that your body probably couldn't digest. And so, that makes sense why you feel better and why you have less bloating. But, cool.
It works for you.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, I don't want to argue with anyone that's working for you. I'm like, I think you should do whatever's working for you.
Absolutely.
Learning, and then whatever, we all have our path. And so, everyone's going to learn what they're supposed to be learning.
And then be aware enough to know when it's not working anymore and make that
that's
change.
important.
Yeah.
That is important.
That's the absolute rule. And that takes some humbleness, I was thinking about it too. A lot of these big leaders and self-help and people who are out in the forefront of creating their marketing and plans and helping millions of people, they get caught in it too. They don't recognize, like, their entrapment is created by their own branding or what they've done, because you have to revisit a lot of things. You think, well, that did work, but does it work now?
Absolutely.
And do I have the strength to tell people, I went the wrong way, and yeah, I helped you guys, but let me let you know that this is really not working for me either, instead of just putting the facade on and saying, yeah, just keep going, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
um
Yeah, we got a
it
lot
takes
of money invested in something. It's hard to walk away from it, you know.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think I've definitely seen people transition, which I think is, good, respectable. I mean, I think we're all still on the learning curve. I mean, I hope in 5 or 10 years I'm going to be saying some different information. So,
yes.
I mean, hopefully it's going to be supportive and relevant, but I'm sure we're going to find out new stuff.
Yeah, and maybe some of the things that we thought we knew, because that article you're talking about, they're talking about the brain never had a lymph system, and the lymph
Right.
system now they got information on that, so that changes everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what happens at night and what's going on really with you. So that is the cool part of it, but there's another part of just saying like this is working for you now. Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep
Yeah.
going.
Yeah.
Keep going.
And I think looking in the forward future, I think the brain is going to be a big part of the conversation, to be honest.
I
Absolutely.
think so too.
Everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It-
I mean, I think because we don't know that much. And so we're going to start learning more and more. And I think we're going to learn how we can trick ourselves and do things. And when we understand that brain better, I think things will become easier, hopefully,
Yeah.
for all of us.
And hopefully there won't be too much dogma and taking it off into profit only, because as everything is kind of wrapped up in that, you lose a lot of the essence of why it's out there. It's supposed to help everyone, and and we want to keep that kind of in the forefront. It's definitely why we're trying to help end suffering in some ways, even though we induce it ourselves and it is a learning curve. If we can minimize it, life is a little easier.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I mean, and on that, I had a conversation with Ray, just a few weeks ago. I emailed him. I go, look, just on a personal note, I want to ask you, why do you return all these people's emails all the time? I mean, I have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of emails from Ray, and I know he does it with everyone. And, he responded back and he's like, I just think it's the right thing to do.
Wow.
I think it's my place to help, and that was it. Like, he doesn't ask for anything. And I just take that and, and I'm like that. And that's why I always look. And I mean, to write that one post, I assure you, I probably read for at least an hour of information, but I feel like this is good information. Let me break it down. And I think it's important to share and give people free information for taking it. And, because I think that's a big part of this. I mean, this is what we, and I'm not saying I'm right all the time, but I think it's important that when we have something that is essential to helping people, that we share it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
And that's why Allison and I have continued to keep coming out with new podcasts and
all free information. We do it for free. Yeah. And that's, we're both really passionate about helping people understand themselves better, and because we've been through it and understand the value of it. So, and how empowering it is.
And we're very appreciative of the hard work and the passion that you put into your book, and agreeing to come on our podcast again.
Absolutely.
And because it does, I know, kind of sound corny, but it does take a community of people to really.
That's not corny at all. Yeah,
no,
that's not. I think you're right. I wholeheartedly
I kind of
agree with that.
it from where the idea of what it would say was like, it takes a village, the whole.
Oh, right. Yeah. Well, I think that it's great to have people in our circle that are on the same page and we can talk to, and again, like what I said with Brian on the last podcast, have the science to back it up, because there's so many people talking right now about science to back their stuff up. And so who's, I don't know, like, who do you believe, right? I guess you have to believe what most resonates with you and that works for you, and try things out. But, and much like what we have done. Yeah. So, but we really are glad, Kate, that you're in our circle and that you've come on our show for a second time. We feel special. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Do you have anything that you're promoting, or I know you talked once about writing another book, but I know that takes a long time. So,
Yeah, it does. And I've gone back and forth with different topics. So, it's there. I mean, maybe it will happen this year, or at least the start of it. So, I've gotten so much into the neurobiology part of things now because I find it so fascinating, and I want to find how the relevance is to what we do, because I think we have such a programming for doing stuff. And so the nutrition aspect is super important, but if you can't pull people out of their programming, it's hard for them to do it. So it's like, okay, how can we do this and relate it to nutrition, and and start supporting it and have a better understanding of why we're doing stuff, because a lot of it is we're programming ourselves to it. So I've started to shift. I'm like, well, how is this relevant? So I'm still in this searching phase right now.
Have you gotten any insight on the deeper aspect of where our beliefs around this come from?
Beliefs around nutrition?
Yeah. I mean, like, what we've talked about today, or where are you going with it? Like, what beliefs are you looking for?
Well, I think our beliefs are just, our history, and who taught us, and, what has worked for us. I mean, obviously, every time you eat less, you lose weight, you're going to think that that's a good method. Right. So the problem is it's never sustainable, and so, if you're and sometimes you just think it's not, you're like, I screwed up again and now it sucks and I suck and I'm just going to gain the weight back. Whereas it is sustainable, but you have to completely change your belief system. And, and I made a post the other day, and I said, I think some of the hardest people to shift are people that have dieted a long time, and also people in the fitness profession that are super invested in this way of eating or living or whatever else, that, the whole hardcore workout tons and, and be super strict and calorie restrictive. And I was too, and I look back, and it, as much as it took me, and I would do something, I would still revert back a little bit, and then I would, learn more, and I would, and so it was a process, and it was really unwinding some of those old beliefs, but I was super embedded and ingrained into thinking that way. And so, but I think hopefully we can find some quicker routes, to get us there. And again, I don't even know if that's the right way. Maybe we should keep moving forward, and there aren't really any quick routes.
That's true. I mean, Alice and I had the same discussion about what we still see in gyms and clubs and fitness areas, and the mentality and the fear, and what you're losing if you do something different, and the idea of that perception, and how to change workouts based on neurology is a whole different new forefront for a lot of people. But it is showing to be more beneficial to kind of get that in there, because it really does make the programming easier for that individual, because you're really, really specific to that person. But it's just a slow process of not convincing, but helping people see that there are other things that you can do now. There isn't this like pain, all pain gain kind of thing. Or
I feel like it's been happening. I told you this earlier today, Maya, that I feel like the same information is being talked about 20 years ago, same stuff, like, and the same testing, the body fat testing and all that, 20 years at least, and it's just like wow, that's a long time. Yeah, exactly.
These old ways come back. Well, we forget, right? We forget that didn't work for a while, and then they repackage it and they put it out again, and then it works again for some years, and then they find it doesn't work, they repackage it, right? I mean, and again, healing isn't it's not the sexiest route, it's not the quickest route, it's not, you're going to look this way immediately, but it's the most supportive and long-term route that's going to work. At least that's my experience. I mean, I've been doing this for 8 years now. I can't tell you I did any program more than a year in my lifetime prior to this,
Wow.
I'm 46 now, and I'm lucky enough that I've done this long enough that I'm, at a goal weight that I like, and I can do a lot that I couldn't do before. And so, but that took a lot of years to get to this place, and so it just, you have to have that persistence. You have to know that this is what you want, and then you have to be brave enough to walk down these paths that are, you haven't done before, I think that's part of it.
Yeah, it's definitely a life.
It's, what is it? Braving the wilderness.
Yeah. And being okay about being weird for a while, because you're
totally weird.
Yeah.
They still think I'm weird. They're just like, weird.
You're drinking orange juice? What? That's crazy.
What? You're eating oysters and orange juice? How do you eat orange? What? Okay, you're weird.
Well, Well, does anybody want to, is there anything else that we want to talk about before we close up? Kate, anything else on your mind? No.
No,
Okay.
I think it's out. Everything came out.
Well, thanks again for coming on the show. You can find
pleasure.
Kate at katedeering.com, and you can find her Facebook page. It's Kate Deering Fitness. And her book is How to Heal Your Metabolism. And you can find that on Amazon and probably on your website too, katedeering.com. Okay. And yeah, so again, thanks for coming on again. And hopefully we can have you on for some Q&A at some point is kind of what I'm thinking. I don't know, at like some point in the not too distant future, if you're up for that,
Sure.
maybe a live stream or something.
Whatever
We
you
can
want.
have us 3 on there and do like a panel kind of thing. That would kind of be fun.
Yeah, no problem.
All
Okay.
right. Nice.
See ya.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. See ya.
Okay.